Okay, I think we can start now. People can join later also. Not a problem. Okay, let me share my screen so that please confirm if you are able to see.
We are able to see.
Yeah. So let us recap, guys, what we have learned yesterday. So this recap session would be only for another 2 days, right? People are new people also might be joining in the sessions. They might be starting their day one, right? So that's the reason I am just recapping it what we have discussed yesterday, so that they also can come to know that what we have discussed yesterday. And even we have YouTube recording sessions also. If you want to, if you have any missed day one, day two sessions, I think you can keep watching on those videos so that you won't miss any content. Is there any new folks today? Any new participants? Please let me know if you have any new participant today. Okay, I'm considering it as no. Yeah. So we were discussing about error, bug, failures yesterday, right? Yeah. So we have these many kind of issues in software testings. Each and everything will have their own definitions. According to the situation, we have to use the terminologies: error, defect, or failures. And we have also discussed why there are bugs in software, and we have discussed about what could be the reasons for having the bugs in software, like miscommunication, software complexity, programming errors, and changing requirements, lack of skill testers. We have discussed about these concepts. Okay, and we were also discussing about software development lifecycle, and in that we have different type of models, different type of methodologies, processes, right? And we are keeping discussing on waterfall model. I think we are ending up that yesterday. So in this waterfall model, we can see these are the phases which we have discussed, each and every phase, and what are the roles and responsibilities of each team member on each and every page, right? Requirement analysis, system designing phase, implementation, testing, deployment, and maintenance. So these are the six different pages. These pages will be common for any kind of software development lifecycle model. Okay. So when we talk about the requirement analysis, so business analyst will do it, system designing, UX or developer will do it. They will do high level designing, low level designing, and implementation done by the development team. They will add the code as per the functionality and requirement, and testing team will do the testing activities once the deployment is completed to the queue environment. Okay, and deployment will be start to the production once it is tested successfully by the QA team, and the QA team will give some sign off, right? And then it will be maintenance phase once everything is completed. So these are the phases which we have discussed. Now let us think about what are the advantages or disadvantages of this waterfall model. Basically, this model is simple and easy to understand, right? It is just like a flow. Okay. We are able to understand each and every phase because other people are not involving into that phase. Only the relevant people are involving into that, and this is simple and easy to understand. It is easy to manage, and each phase has specific deliverables and a review process. So we can see, guys, here each and every phase have specific deliverables. The requirement analysis phase, only BA will do their work, and he is doing his PRS and SRS documentation, right? And it is specific deliverables only. Only that particular guys only will do that business analysis and requirement specifications and create a documentation and share it across the team and the review process. In this model, phases are processed and completed one at a time. Right? There is no overlap here, as you can see. There is no overlap. Nobody is involving into other phase, and it is very easy to them so that it can be completed easily without any interruptions, without any dependencies. And this model works well for small projects where requirements are clearly defined and very well understood. What do you mean by that? It means for very small projects. When we have a clear requirement, when there is no change on the requirement, any further changes, right? If you have any changes during the implementation phase, again, business analysts have to do their BRS documented changes if there is any changes, or if the changes required on testing phase, again, development team, UX, CEO team, and business analyst team, everybody have to change their process, right? So that's the reason waterfall model will be very suitable for small project where we have clear defined and well understand requirements. When we are confident on requirement may not be changed in future, then only we should go for this waterfall model, or else it is not suitable and it will be effortless. If we can see disadvantages, what are the disadvantages of this waterfall model? Once an application is in the testing stage, it is very difficult to go back. That is what we are discussing, right? It may not suitable for the frequent change requirements, and no working software is produced until late during the life cycle. We can't even demo the product until unless it is completed, right? So until it is complete implementation stage, we can't even demo the software to the client or stakeholders. Okay, high amount of risk and uncertainty. We may have high amount of risk if you have any changes in the during the any phase of life cycle, software development life cycle, and very uncertainty. And the reason, because we have a step-by-step flow, and each and every phase have their own analysis and development, and the other people may not involve into it. Only client to people. It is relation between these two people only. Not a good model for a complex and object-oriented project. When we are working with multiple teams and a very huge module project, the coordination between these many people and these many modules and integration of these many applications or these many modules, it is very difficult when we are following this, because everybody following their own process, their own waterfall model. One team may not consider other teams because there is no dependency here. They will follow their own requirement. Other team A follow their BRS and SRS documents, and team B follow their own SRS document as per the client. They won't consider because there is no relation between these teams, because they are following waterfall model, right? So in these situations, it is very difficult to communicate with our cross team functionalities, right? Because they won't even consider, because they are not bothering about their requirement or their team functionality, because there is no integration is happening here in this waterfall model. And that's the reason it is not good for a complex project. Poor model for long and ongoing project. There will be few projects which will continuously ongoing, where there is no ending process for that. For example, if you can take a bank application, any bank application, the continuous enhancement will be required. If you take any healthcare, they will keep on changing the requirement according to their country. If you take any applications like web, not only web, any web application or any healthcare application, these industries are never-ending process, right? They keep on changing the requirement, they keep on adding the offers, they keep on adding the functionalities. This kind of project is not suitable because they have to change the requirement, depends upon the situations and according to the market. So that's the reason not suitable for the requirement for ongoing project. And also not suitable for the project where requirements are at moderate to high risk of changes. What is mean by that? When we have a moderate requirement, that means we don't have much knowledge onto the requirement, and there is a high risk of changing, right? So in that case also, we should not consider this method, because we are not sure on the requirement. We may change at any point of time during the life cycle. So these are the advantages and disadvantages of waterfall model. Understand, guys?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, thanks for confirming. So just as a manual tester, you should understand this waterfall model, when to use, what is advantages and disadvantages. But in the industry, Nowhere is using this waterfall model as a manual tester. You should aware of it. Some companies, there are some startups, or there might be some legacy project. They are flexible with this waterfall model. People are using still this waterfall model. So as a tester, you should understand how the workflow will be. These are the phases are common for everything: requirement, planning, implementation, designing, deploying. Every phase is common for our complete development life cycle. And the interviewer will ask you, like, what is a waterfall model? Can you explain about it? Then you should be in a position to explain each and every phase of the waterfall model, and what are the advantages and what are the disadvantages of using it. If you simply explain it, waterfall model just having different pages, BA will do this, developer will do that. It will be, they will consider like you have a theoretical knowledge, don't have a practical knowledge. So as a manual tester, critical part you can learn from anywhere. Process, you will evaluate it in terms of the process. Okay, not about the theoretical definitions and advantages and disadvantages. You should be know the process basically, how it would be. Okay, we should explain about the process, then only interviewer trust you. We have a real-time experience in these areas, and we have already worked on, and you are also familiar with this waterfall model, right? So you ask the question, what is a waterfall model here? These different phases and stages of your software, where we have these many phases: requirement analysis through completion, that is maintenance. Each and every phase have involved with different people and they perform their task. Okay, so this is the flow. You have to explain each and every module: requirement analysis, system designing, implementation, testing, deployment, and maintenance. And later you should add some advantages and disadvantages of the waterfall model. And you may not have any question further regarding when you say like that. Okay, now let us moving on to the incremental iterative model. We can call it as iterative model or incremental model. Okay, this iterative life cycle does not start with any full specific of your requirement. Here, for example, when we don't have a clear requirement, when what we have studied and the waterfall model, when we don't have clear requirements, first the team will go with initial requirement as a build one, and will start the process. The process is remain same: designing, development, testing, implementation. Some of the phase we are not included in this picture, but the process is same, and it will be implemented in a small modules, where there are people are not have clear cut on the requirement side. They will go certain requirements first initially and implement the phase. For example, if you can say any application, first they will give access for the login. So they will work on the login module first. They will implement that page. They will enter everything. They can create access for user, username, password, and submit button, login button, whatever, and they will complete that page. And again, we have to integrate that page to the home page, right? Again, they will develop some home page functionalities. They will add all the modules and implement the functionalities of the modules as a build 2, and they will integrate these both build 1 and build 2 like that. So requirements gathering will be happening for each and every phase, not on the once at a time, like unlike as a waterfall model. In the waterfall model, the difference between waterfall model and incremental iterative model is requirement will be collected only once in waterfall model. Here we will gather in the iterating the requirement for each and every build as per the changes. Get it, guys? And each release of iterative model is developed in a specific and a fixed time period. If we can see, they will have them some time period for build 1, and they will do designing, development, testing, and implementation as part of this build 1. And build 2 will follow the same cycle. Build 3 also follow the same cycle. This model also legacy only, guys, as you need to understand what is the incremental iterative model. That's the reason I have added here. Now, what are the advantages of incremental iterative model? Advantages: some working functionality can be developed and early in the software development lifecycle. That is what we are discussing. Some of the functionalities you can implement it at any point of time. You can initially implement login functionality, or you can directly implement the logout functionality, or you can implement the payment gateway page, whatever the page you want, you can implement during this incremental iteration model. It is more cost effective to change the scope of the requirement in iterative model. We can change at any point of time, and it is cost effective only. Okay, and parallel development can be planned because builds are frequently given by the clients or requirements for each and every build from the development team. So we can change the changes at any point of time by deploying any builds from development team to QA team, or we can add some more features under the next build like that. And also testing and debugging during the smaller iteration is easy because we are working only on small modules. Testing can be easy. There is no integration. There is no complexity in the testing. We can perform simply on that particular module, and we can justify it's a quality of the product. Risks are identified and resolving during the iteration. And each iteration is easy to manage because of the small components, and we can easily identify the risk. Basically, risk identification is done by the business analyst and the development team. What are the risks has been involved into those build in these many iterations? If there is any new iteration is starting, they will consider the previous build, and they will consider the previous requirements also. What are the changes we have done in our previous cycle, and what are the changes which we are going to make as part of new build? So that kind of risk analysis will be done, and it is easy to do it. In iterative model, less time is spent on the documentation and more time is given for designing, because we have lost huge people in the iterative model. We have a lot of time to design and documentation. It is given for the designing phase, where we UX and UI people will involve into each and every time, because designing phase will happen every iteration for each and every incremental. They might change it and they can follow as per the new enhancement. Now, what are the disadvantages of this incremental iteration model? More resource may be required because we have a lot of builds and designing phases will happen. Although cost of change is lesser, but it is not very suitable for changing the requirement, right? It is a cost change in lesser, but it is not very suitable for changing the requirement. If we change the requirement, rest of the build also need to be changed, right? We are not following the frequent client changing of the requirement, and more management attention is required because risk analysis has to be done with multiple teams, and management attention is required. What are the risk analysis, and what are the changes as happening, and what is the impact of the other modules when we are changing these requirement, right? And it is not suitable for small project. We have waterfall model is already there for small project when we have clear defined requirement from the client. So we can go with the waterfall model rather than going with the incremental iterative model. Highly skilled resources are required for skill analysis, because is here designing phase is more impact on the involved into this particular model. So highly skilled people are required from development team and business analyst side. And here project progress is highly dependent upon the risk analysis phase. This is also one of the important phase disadvantages, guys, because we should not go with this only because of project progress is highly dependent, because every build have their own deliverables, and risk analysis phase, we have to do every phase in the risk analysis. Okay. Now the next model is V model. This is also one software development lifecycle model where verification and validation will done simultaneously. You can see the diagram here. V model means verification and validation, right? Does anybody want to speak out? I have enabled a chat for everybody. Let me check once again. Yeah, I have enabled to talk to everybody. Please ask the question, guys, if you have any questions, so that we can stop. So I think I am a little bit fast today because these are the models that you still understand only. There is an Agile process is there where we can discuss more about it, because these are the waterfall model, iterative model, V model. You just need to understand theoretically and how the workflow should be. Please stop me, guys, at any point of time during this session. Are we clear so far? If you have any question, don't bother about these models, because these are now using nowadays. You just to understand as the interview point of view. So this V model is about verification and validation, just like waterfall model only. The V-shaped life cycle is a sequential path of the execution. So the difference between waterfall and V model is, in waterfall model, every phase will be done after completion of the previous phase. Here, simultaneously, validation will happen, verification will happen, as you can see in the diagram. First, the BRS or CRS or URS, these are the documentations will be done by the business analyst. At this point of time, validation team will do the user acceptance testing. You'll come to know what is user acceptance testing in the upcoming session. This is just a phase. Okay. And while using system requirement specification, system testing will be done. And while doing the high level designing or low level designing with a UI or UX developer, integration testing will happen. And after that coding, unit testing will happen. So every phase will have testing will be happening according to the verification. So validation will be happening. Each phase must be completed before the next phase on. Next phase begins. Okay. Understand, guys? There is no difference between much into the waterfall and V model, where everything will be happening step by step in waterfall model. In V model, validation or testing will happen simultaneously for each and every phase. Because next slide, you can see what is that. It is simple and easy to use, because every phase is happening with validation simultaneously. Testing activities like planning, test designing happening well before coding. So here we are doing before giving the build from the development team. We are doing as per the requirement and the business requirement and the system requirement. We are doing it high level testing validations. This saves a lot of time, hence higher chance of success over the waterfall model. We can have early stage, we can identify the bugs before getting the code. And proactive defect tracking, that is defect are found at early stages that we are discussing, because we are validation is happening simultaneously as per the dev team. We can avoid the downward flow of the defects, because we can identify everything, each and every phase until the code is completed. Work well for small project where students are easily understand. And we get some people are using rather than waterfall model, they will comfortable with V model, because we can identify the defects in early stage. What are the disadvantages of this V model? Very rigid and least flexibility. We don't have inflexibility, which is very inflexible sometimes, according to the client requirement, because testing is involving each and every phase, right? So the billing charge is different for each and everybody, and we have to. Some people, complete the complete project with their product, and for testing, they will hand over it to some other organization. See, for example, I will ask as a client, I will go with TCS to develop my product, and for testing, I will go for the Infosys team. I will give this product for Infosys team, because I don't trust same guys again. Whoever manufactured the product, if you ask them to do testing, they don't find much defect, because they have developed their own product, and the testing also they will done accordingly. I don't trust them, guys. So I will go with some other organization, Infosys or Wipro team, so that they will analyze the requirement and they will have a lot of chance to find more bugs. Next one is software is developed during the implementation phase. So no need nearly prototype of the software are produced. In each and every phase, we are discussing about the requirement and implementing the phases, and testing is accordingly happening. So no early prototypes of the software are produced. If we have any changes happening in middleware, then the test document along with the requirement document had to be updated, because Testing is happening in each and every phase simultaneously. If you have any requirement changes during this SRS or this coding phase or implementation phase, testing for team will perform testing accordingly. They don't need to wait because validation is happening parallelly in the V model. One side is verification and another side is validation. Here, guys.
Yes.
Yes, Madam.
Yeah, clear.
Okay. Now, very important life cycle, Agile model. Nowadays, entire industry is following this process, Agile model. Yeah. So, what is the difference between Agile model and the rest of the other models? We have a lot of advantages for everybody who are involving in this project. Okay, business analyst, development team, and the testing team, stakeholders, product owners is very much flexible for each and every iteration, right? So this industry was moving towards more into the agile processes because of the flexibility and convenient for each and everybody. Okay. So if we see that diagram here, we have every phases is there as iteration 1, iteration 2, iteration 3. It is happening. The entire cycle is repeating in different iteration. We can see this carefully. 1 second, guys. Yeah, sorry for the interruption. Yeah. So in this agile process, each and every phase will be there similarly like as waterfall or V model. Initially, the planning requirement analysis will be there and designing, building, testing, planning. So these are the phases which we have each and every iteration. So we'll be learning more about the each and every role of the participant. You can see yesterday what we have discussed here. We have multiple ceremonies will be involved into the Agile model. These are the people, TA, dev team, which we have discussed yesterday, testing team, UX or UI team, product owner, Scrum Master. Everybody will be there. These are the actual Agile team. In this waterfall model, you may not find out the people like this with a specific role. Sometimes this UX and UI development team will be done by the dev team, and the product owner job is done by the business analyst or some testing team. We may not have the specific roles here in the other models. This is completely Agile model. That is what we have discussed yesterday. And the Scrum Master. See, this role will be very specific to the Agile model only. You may not find this role in any of the software development lifecycle, like Waterfall, V model, Iterative model, any model. This is role is specific to the Agile model only. So basically, where people will be involving more and interact with each other regarding the requirement, testing, development, and end user testing and deployments. Everybody will be involving into the each and every phase. They will come to know clear cut each and everything. There is no miscommunication. There is no problem with the requirement changes. For example, in the iteration 1, product owner want to change that requirement. He will do it in the second requirement. Okay. And after designing the also, if you want to change any code changes, they will do it on the next iteration. That means second iteration, that is designing phase. And testing, we want to perform something and we have done this testing and new again requirement have been changed here. Testing team will perform the iteration too because this phase is already there again. So basically Agile team is Agile software development lifecycle will happen in a iteration model. Each and every iteration has the certain time period, guys. Few organization will follow 2 weeks span of sprint. You will come to know what is sprint. Many of you already know sprint. What is sprint? It is just a 2 week span of time where QA QA and development team will do their deliverables and complete the sprint for a specific cycle. That is called sprint usually. Similarly, we may have monthly sprint or 2 week span of sprint, 3 week span of sprint according to their convenient. We have huge changes in any particular iteration. They will increase the sprint time tenure from 2 weeks to 3 weeks, and they will complete all the entire process within the 3 weeks. Planning, requirement, designing, building, testing, everything will be done within the iteration. So there will be some ceremonies. One is what is in the Agile ceremonies we call sprint planning. Let me explain. We're talking about Agile software development lifecycle model, right? So in this model, first stage will be sprint planning. And second phase is grooming. Third phase will be we call the implementation for designing phase. Testing, demos, and there will be retrospective. So you can see guys here, sprint planning means all the people, whoever we have discussed here, production, testing team, UX team, product owners, Scrum Master, and dev team, business analyst, everybody will be involved in the planning phase. We'll be having certain meetings. That is sprint planning. Okay, in this sprint planning meeting, everybody will be involved into this phase, and everybody will understand the requirement and involve into it, and very free to ask the question about the product owner. And grooming is nothing but discussing about the clear discussion about the requirement and user stories and use case and epics. We will call it as different terminologies in the software development lifecycle. So they have their own terminologies for grooming. We will discussing more into the upcoming session. We have different type of roles, and each and everything have their own definition. Just high level overview here. And designing phase on implementation phase. And the third day of the sprint, they will start the actual implementation. Coding team, development team will do the designing, coding. Testing team will do the test case designing and execution. And after that, everything is completed within the end of the sprint. We'll be having demos. So this testing team will give a demo of the delivered product to the product owner. Right here, demonstration will be done, and the product owner will look into it. And if he is okay, if he or she is okay, then it will be accepted. Okay. That means iteration is completed, and we'll go with the next iteration with the different changes and new products, new enhancement, whatever it is. This retrospective meeting is basically to understand what went well, what not went well, what are the challenges which we have, right? So in this retrospective meeting, people will be involving more into this meeting, and they will discuss. Development team will say that this time we didn't get much clear requirement, and we need some more guidelines and some documentation with respect to that particular changes and all. Like that, development will team too, and testing team, what they will discuss. We got the very late building during that tenure. See, we have a 2 week span of sprint, right? 1 week completely taken by the development team. Testing team will do their job. They will design the test cases and wait for the execution. At the second week of the sprint, as we have discussed, sprint will have 2 weeks, right? In the second week of the sprint, they will give the deployment to the QA team at very end of the second week. That means when we have another 2 to 3 days are there. In such cases, testing team will be very difficult to perform the entire build, right? So they will raise that kind of questions in this retrospective meeting, and a demo will be happening, right? So the product owner will expect more demonstrations from the each and every team member from development side also. So they will discuss everything in the retrospective meeting. So they will talk about what went well, what not, what are the action items to be taken. So they will discuss about these kind of issues and escalations, and that will not repeat for the next iteration. The first iteration will be completed like that, and they will discuss on these many points, and it will be don't repeat it on the next iteration, the challenges or issues that they have faced in the second iteration. Again, planning will be happening, requirement analysis will be happening, designing, building, testing. Again, the second iteration cycle also will be repeated. Similarly, retrospective meeting will be done in this phase, and same thing will be done the third iteration. So that's about an agile process basically. And what are the advantages if we can talk about it? Customer satisfaction by rapid, continuous delivery of a useful software. Because he will satisfy. Why? Because we are going to give the demonstration for each and every iteration, right? We are giving a demo how it would be in actually in the production once it went to the production. Like you compare in waterfall model, until testing team is completed testing and deploying to the production, they don't know. Here we are delivering small modules, different type of requirements and enhancement in a cycle and throwing it to the production, right? And we are giving the demos also to the product owner how it would be. Okay, if he is not satisfied with the demo, he will stop that and he will change the requirement and he will make the changes in, and we will do it on the next iteration. We are not throwing it to the production. That means we can say it's a backlog. We will be implementing it in the next iteration and developing it and testing it. Then only we are pushing it to the production. Are we following?
Yeah. Thank you.
Now, people and interactions are emphasized rather than process and tools. Customers, developers, and testers constantly interact with each other. Here we have a flexibility in Agile team because we have everyday daily stand-up calls in Agile process where we will be discussing from each one of them. For example, while testing, we are not able to understand some functionality. We can directly contact the concerned development team who has been developed that particular module, and we can get some clarification how to test this functionality. What are the inputs we have to give, right? And similarly, we can have a call with any one of the developers within the team and we can get the clarity. We have that kind of flexibility, right? Because in every Agile team, we'll be having 10 to 11 people where we'll have 3 development people or 2 business analysts, 2 UI developers, and 1 product owner and 1 Scrum Master. If we don't have any clear requirement, we will directly contact any of these people because everybody will understand, because everybody is involving and doing the software development. That is the flexibility. We can interact with each one of them. And working software is delivered frequently, weeks rather than months. See, as we are discussing, weeks is nothing but sprint. 2 weeks is 1 sprint instead of months. When we go with the waterfall or V model, that it will take a lot of time. We have to wait for 3 months, 6 months, 8 months to complete the complete process because we are not delivering any one of the product unless it is completed, right? But here we are delivering for every 2 weeks. That means for every sprint, we are giving the deliverables and demonstrating to the product owner. This is very flexible for the product owner because we are continuously delivering it. Face-to-face conversation is the best form of the communication. We are flexible, right? We can contact to any development team and product owner, Scrum Master regarding that. We can have even face-to-face conversation, depends upon your rapport. And if it is not required, we can have the telephone call and clarification. They will share the screen, and this is how you need to test, and these are the functionalities has been changed, and there is no miscommunication here, right? Like similar, unless like a waterfall model, there is no miscommunication, because we are clearly communicating with the development team, business analyst, and product owner. Sometimes we can directly talk to the product owner also. What is the requirement? I didn't catch that requirement. Can you please explain once again? Once again, guys. So we can have a flexibility to talk to anybody, product owner, development team, business analyst. So we can have a conversation to them. And second one is another one, close daily cooperation between business people and developers. Because testing team will do some testing, and they will be depends upon the flexibility and convenient. Sometimes testing team will directly inform to the development team before raising the bugs. In Agile process, we don't need to raise the bugs here. We can find out the bugs, and we don't need to create a ticket. It is not a mandatory. If we are closing the ticket within the time cycle. Okay. So build came to the testing team. Testing found any bug or in any one module, they will talk to the development team. So these are the functionalities not as per the expectations. Can you please take a look into it? Like that conversation will happen on the daily stand-up calls. And if it is not fixed within that iteration and within the sprint, then we will raise a ticket for tracking purpose. For that will be fixed on the next iteration. Like that. We can maintain the relation with the development team and the testing team between. Regular adaptation to change the circumstances. So the customer or client will be keep on adapting the new tools on technologies. And for example, if you want to introduce any new technologies, we can welcome to introduce, because we can easily adopt any technologies, unlike other software development lifecycle. We have the flexibility. That is the advantages. Customer or client can change the requirement at any point of time, and he can adopt any new tools if it is required, and we can use the tools, and we can hire the people and perform the deliverables proactively if it is suitable. So these are the different type of advantages we have, and even late changes in the requirements are also welcome. The last point. So client is very welcome to change the requirement during any point of time. Development team or testing team won't give any concern, because we have the iterations. We are welcome at the next iteration, next sprint, or next release cycles. It is not a one-time settlement, right? It is not a one-time settlement where customer give only once in the requirement, not like that. Agile process is itself meant for frequent changes of the requirement, and they will give time also for that. So testing team and development team not bothering about the new changes. Once they have a time, they will fix it. Everybody will be involved into it and analysis it and testing, complete the product. Let us talk about the design. Anyway, questions so far, guys, from advantages?
No,
If you
Madhu, we are good.
Yeah, please. Who is talking?
This printer.
Any questions, guys? Venkat.
No, we are good.
Okay. Just understand this is the Agile process, guys. Most of the industries are using the same Agile process. Even though if you get any organization opportunity, you will be going to involve into this Agile process. Try to understand each and every point of this Agile process. Rest of them are not required. As a tester, you just understand them. But this Agile process is very important. Now, let us talk about the disadvantages, because every software development lifecycle have their own advantages and disadvantages, right? So if we consider the disadvantages, in case of some software deliverables, especially the large ones, it is difficult to assess the effort required at the beginning of the software development lifecycle. So what we are talking about here. So during the sprint planning, so product owner come up with that certain enhancement or requirement, As a dev team, testing team, we have to estimate it, how many days we are going to complete it. Okay, how many weeks it will take, how many hours, like that. We have to give certain estimations. That is very difficult to give within that 2 to 3 days span of time. So we may consider it first. Product owner will come up with some changes as a development team. I can say, I can promise max I can deliver with 3 to 4 days this functionality, like that. And if there is any issues will happen, or if there is any new enhancement happen, in order to integrate that new functionality with the old functionality, there might be some difficulty with development team technically, right? Because of some technologies or lack of knowledge or skills, something like that. It may take a lot of time, right? And that's the reason it is especially for large ones when we are working with the multiple team members. So like this, for each and every module, we'll have different agile teams. This is one agile team, like for any one module, and for another module, there will be some agile team. So these are the teams. But when we are working with a large complex project, integration should happen, cross-functionality team. Okay. This team should be work with another team. Okay. This team should work with another team, like that. Then we call it a sprint. Sorry, agile team 1. Okay. Similarly, this team will work on some other functionality. And they, while integrating, they have to coordinate with these many integrations will happen. Everybody will have, every team will have their own product owner, their own scrum master, their own testing, their own development team, like that. Agile teams will have to work cross-functional teams also. They can call directly, testing team directly call with some other agile team with this automation team or manual team. They can consider while doing some integration testing, how to perform, how to give inputs, because this team don't know about this team, right? So they will have a flexibility to call to each and one of them, and they can interact to each other team. Okay. Similarly, so they have to, it will be very difficult when we are working with a large team. There is a lack of emphasis on necessary designing and documentation, because we are following the agile process, right? There is no much documentation. Everything will be on the emails or SharePoints or locations. And we don't have sometimes proofs. We may not get some tickets. We may not have that clear documentation in the any cycle, because Agile itself is a less documentation. We are working on the each release with different sprints, and once it is done, we are not bothering about it, and we are going for the next iteration. After completion of 5 months, how do we know what we have delivered in first iteration, first month of the first sprint? Again, everybody never go and went for the previously cycles and verify the requirement. They will just introduce in the current sprint and simply develop it, like that. We don't have a lot of documentation in this one. The project can easily get taken off track in the customer representatives is not clear what final outcome that they want. The project can easily get taken off track because we are not tracking right each and every sprint. We are having retrospective meetings, and we are discussing about what went well, what not went well, and similarly, we are not repeating it to the next iteration. We can easily getting taken off it project because we have very minimal requirement for each and every requirement, each and every iteration, and representative is not clear what final outcome that they don't want. Sometimes everything is completed at the end of the sprint demos. While we are giving demo to the product owner, he may not accept it sometimes, and again we have to change the requirement. Now, considering about the only senior programmers are capable of taking the kind of decisions required during the development process. Hence, it has no place for newbie programmers unless combined with experienced resources. So the freshers or newcomers may not have that kind of capability to analysis, because highly skilled development team is required, because iteration will start within 2 to 3 weeks span of sprint, right? And first initial phase only, freshers or newcomers may not estimate that time. that we are discussing in the advantage point of view. In these disadvantages, we are talking about only experienced guys or development team or testing team will give some estimation when to complete the development, when to complete the testing, like that. Similarly, we should need a highly skilled testers and development team to give the estimations. Are we clear, guys? Over? Any questions from anybody?
We are facing
Yes,
any
it's
issues,
clear.
right?
Yeah.
But
What
we are
about?
facing any,
Yeah.
I have one question. We are facing any issues, right? We will be writing the defects and everything, right? In this model, or we will be creating any user stories
Right.
for the defect.
Right. If we have any issues or defects found during the sprint, that means during the sprint, testing team will do testing on the second week of the sprint, right? Development will develop their functionality in the first week and deploy the code to the testing team, testing environment. So testing team will perform testing, and if you found any bugs within the sprint, you will be connecting with the developer. So I found this functionality in so and so model, and you need to fix it. Then development team will think about the defect if they can fix within that sprint. I mean, within the 2 weeks of sprint, because we are completing the sprint, right, for every 2 weeks. If you think that they are fixing it within the sprint, then you don't need to raise it. You can simply escalate it and email to the concerned development team. Some organizations, it is required to raise the ticket in the Jira or LM or QC, and they will raise it and for tracking purpose, and they can fix it within the time period.
So it depends on companies.
Companies, right?
Okay.
It depends upon the organizations.
Yeah.
For example, you are a tester and I am the developer. You have a good rapport with me, and you don't want to raise because it is going to be escalated to at product owner level, right? Every team is
Yes.
involving it. Every team will see about the defect. So sometimes I unofficially fix it because we have a rapport. We have a lot of communication in the Agile process. Daily we will frequently meet. Sometimes you don't know about how to test it. You will come to me instead of going with the product owner. As a developer, I will help you. As a tester, you will help me, like that. That is a flexibility and closely this what we have discussed. Close daily cooperation. Close daily cooperation between business people and developers. This is what the point is.
Okay.
Yeah.
Got
When
it.
you are working with cross team, some other Agile team, then definitely you will raise a bug that will go for the another Agile team.
Okay.
Yeah. Within the team, sometimes you may not require and you may raise or may not need to raise.
Yeah. Got
Any
it.
other
Thank
questions, guys? Before we wrap up. Let us have more interaction, guys. Maybe we are free to ask. Here we even enable the chat option. Please use the chat also from tomorrow onwards. If you have any questions, if you are hesitating to ask me, please write a question in the chat box so that we can have a discussion on that. Okay. Okay, guys. I think it's time to wrap up. We'll meet again tomorrow. Until then, have a nice day. See you tomorrow. Bye bye.
Thank you.
Thank you.